Hi, friends. Welcome back to Live at the Roxy on this Friday. Friday. Gotta get down on Friday, January 27th. This morning I woke up and I was working, and then I did this show for DJ Wooldridge, Only Stupid Answers. If you don't already watch, you should. I love working with DJ. And then I got off air and I looked at the date and saw that it was the 27th, and I just started bawling. Which is so lame. I looked on Twitter and stuff. Every year I cry for Holocaust Remembrance Day. You know, my ex-boyfriend used to always say to me, there's some really not great times in that relationship, but sometimes he did see me. And he used to always say to me that I was the only person he knows who still cries every week about the Holocaust. And I do. I cry all the time about the Holocaust. I'm not a big crier in general. I am more of a crier in my later years than I was in my earlier years. I feel like I was like fucking stone, but always I've cried about the Holocaust. And it's so strange because in some ways it happened a long time ago. In other ways it happened super recently. But you look at these stories and you just cannot believe it. So today is the 78-year anniversary of essentially when my people were freed, those of them who were left. And you hear that number 78. You think about 1945 sounds like a long time ago, but 78 years, that's when we were mass executing millions of Jews. That's a lot of people's current lifetime. You're in the chat, very likely your parents are in their 70s or older than that, or you have grandparents who are significantly older than that. And it's just so fucking recently. And it just makes me cry. And when you think about our society and our humanity, and then you think about the fact that there are still Nazis today and people who say that they like Hitler. There are people who don't believe the Holocaust took place and think that the Jews are making it all up. And we still have people, it was only 78 years ago. Think about what it's going to be like in 500 years. Deniers. And, this was during a time where there's footage. The Jews have been mass executed and persecuted forever. This is just one of those times, and people still don't believe it happened. And yeah, so I end up in tears on this day for so many reasons, for all of the people, my people that we that were murdered, for how that affects the rest of my people's life. It doesn't stop there. 6 million Jews are mass murdered, and then there's only 15 million Jews on the planet today. So think about what a massive percentage that is, how many more Jews there would be today if that hadn't happened. And it makes it so much easier to persecute us today. I saw this photo today also that I hadn't seen before. And it's this image. I'll show you guys. And if you see in the middle, this is a bride and groom in the middle of the photo. Let me see if I can get this to focus. Otherwise, I can airdrop it in. Let me just airdrop it in. It's a wedding day photo. And in this photo, you see about 50 people. And of those 50 people, they're all in Poland. And the bride and groom ended up leaving Poland, and they went to Liverpool. And here's the photo. And the bride and groom moved to Liverpool, and then every other person in this photo was murdered. and the only two people who were not murdered are the bride and groom, and every other person in this photo was killed. This is Meyer and Sarah, and they were, I guess, well, after they got married, they moved to Liverpool for work. He was a minister in Liverpool, and he traveled to Poland to study, and that's where he met Sarah. They fell in love, and then they got married, and this is their wedding photo, and they're surrounded by 50 friends and family members. And then I guess they moved from Poland to Liverpool, and he was the assistant minister of Childwall Hebrew congregation. And then in 1936, Sarah took her two daughters, Betty and Phyllis, to visit Poland, having to travel through Nazi Germany on the outward and return journey. And that 1936 trip was the last time that she saw her family. And because other than the bride and groom, every single person in this photo were victims of the Holocaust. And you see things like this and you're just like, what the fuck? So I saw it and I just started crying. And, these two people are somebody's grandparents, and that's who is sharing the image. And then this is what the grandkid said. He said it was never discussed because it was too hard, but the testimony document submitted in 1978 shows my grandfather's name is in an address in Sinclair Drive in Childwall. The document is about a relative, and it says the relationship to the deceased is son-in-law. So it's about my great-grandparents, Sholem and Nietzsche, their place of birth in Poland. For the circumstance of death, he just wrote murdered by Nazis. And then he says, it's such a shock to see it written. We don't exactly know what happened to them. My dad thinks that they were shot, but we don't know whether they went to the camps. After the war, my grandma stopped getting letters, and it broke her. She had a bad heart. She died in 1975 and I never met her, but her story has always been a big part of the family. Just like all of them gone. Just to imagine looking at your wedding photo and just thinking that it's every single person you know. And that happened to so many people. I saw this other post that said if we held a moment of silence for every victim of the Holocaust, we'd be silent for 11 and a half years. And what's happening today is so fucked up. Every life matters. Every life really does. But we see things where one person is shot and killed, 5 people are shot and killed, 15 people are shot and killed, and we are all fucking devastated and in arms about it. And just think about how long it took us to give a fuck about the fact that 6 million people were being murdered. Think about how long it took for America to get involved in this, and how quickly we've gotten involved in other things. And the only reason we got involved was because this war was coming to America. Otherwise, we never would have gone. It's obviously not the only genocide that's ever taken place. It is the largest. But what we choose to get involved in and when. I mean, at what point is it too many? And at what point is it a genocide? Anyway, looking at these photos today and just thinking about everything. Obviously, you guys know my grandfather is a war hero from World War II. Just thinking about you're in a plane and you're going to bomb Germany, and and my grandfather, my papa and Grammy, their families are from Russia and Poland and Hungary. And obviously, the Polish Jews were some of the most at-risk Jews. And Papo, whose parents were immigrants, being here, knowing because he was born here, he is going to fight for the lives of his people. And if he had been born somewhere else, he wouldn't be fighting for the lives of his people. He would be in a camp. And so then having to fight in World War II, you're considered one of the lucky Jews. And then Papo, of the 13 people that were in his troop, he was the only one who lived. It's just fucking insane how many people. It's not just the lives of everybody in the camps. It's all of the lives of everybody. Just fucking horrible, horrible. And like on Holocaust Remembrance Day, looking on social media and seeing people that are posting and just saying the Holocaust happened. And it's like, oh my God, like, I don't feel like, I mean, I guess with indigenous people, it's been similar for so long in terms of like we've been fucking praising Christopher Columbus, and there's so many people who don't still to this day don't know what we did to indigenous people in this country. But like the Holocaust happened, that's the level. Like we can't even, it's controversial to say the Holocaust happened. You have to say that. Uh, and for the deniers, I really want to get in a room with a denier and just ask them, like, what was World War II? And where did all the Jews go? And what are these concentration camps that still exist that you can visit? Like, what do you, okay, you don't think that happened. What did happen? And where are we hiding the 6 million Jews? And what's all the footage and all the photographs? It's the hardest follow ever, but I always encourage that people follow the Twitter account Auschwitz Memorial. They do such an amazing job of not letting people forget and of posting individuals and what happened to that individual, and with photos, like undeniable every time photos. And it's like, how can we have that? How could this be 78 years ago? My grandparents are 95 and 97. It's a lot of people that are alive today that were alive 78 years ago. And we still have these people that just don't believe it happened. And like, so what are the tattoos? What are the numbers tattooed on people's arm? Like, what do the Holocaust deniers think that is? If you don't think it's X, then what is Y? Like, how? And in your soul, do you really not believe it happened? And there's something weird, and I don't know if everybody feels like this with their ancestors, and maybe this is just what it is to be human. And you guys know that I am secular. I mean, I guess I'm more agnostic than atheist these days because who the fuck knows? But for me, like, I don't know if this makes sense to anybody else. I honestly don't know how to phrase this better, so please forgive me if this comes out wrong. But I like feel the Holocaust in my bones. When I talk about it, it feels different than when I talk about any other atrocity that's happened. I'm not saying that that doesn't make other atrocities not fucking just horrible, but I do think when it's your ancestors, you feel it. And it's like, I don't know, that's like always with me in so many different ways. It affects every area of my life. Number one, like, okay, how I date. It took me so long whether to decide whether or not to put Jewish on my dating bio. If you put Jewish, then the world assumes you're looking for another Jew, because oftentimes Jews end up with Jews because there's so few of us and we're so fucking afraid to be with anybody not Jewish. This is a vast generalization. That a lot of people just assume I'm looking for a Jew, which I am not in particular looking for somebody Jewish. If my husband or wife or partner, whoever ends up being Jewish, I obviously am okay with that. But if they are not, then I'm okay with that also. But then if I don't put Jewish, then you have to tell somebody you're Jewish. And because that's the part, or they might know, they might see you and they might be able to clock that you're Jewish, or you might have to share that. And then, as you guys know, I've dealt with a lot of anti-Semitism, even in dating. Um, and I have that like weird disease that, or one of the diseases that Ashkenazi people can get. And I just had that date where somebody threw that in my face. It's just like a weird thing. So I it affects my dating life in many different ways. Also, like, I need to be okay with my partner being okay with our kids being Jewish, which is a real thing that some people are not okay with. And then it affects like how I view the world or my sense of community or where I feel comfortable living. Because as you guys know, we make up way less than 1% of the population. And you don't want to live in a place that has no Jews because people still believe that Jews have horns in a lot of the world. So it's like where you live or what you can do, who you date. Um, it's just like it affects just so many areas of my life. And then how few Jews there are, of course, is affected so greatly by the Holocaust. Um, and it's just, yeah, the generational trauma of it. It's just like it's in my bones. And when I see Holocaust Remembrance Day, I can't even believe we have to have a day to remember it. Because some people have forgotten it or some people don't even believe it happened. So it's like, different than like Memorial Days or like this is a remembrance day. To remember? Like, do some people just they don't remember? I know I wasn't alive, but I never forget. Ugh. Anyway, so I was crying today and I have a headache. And it's been this is a very fun stream, I know. But obviously, I know I've told you guys this, and I know you guys have told me this, but for a lot of you, I'm the only Jew you know. And I take that responsibility seriously. And so, very likely, say you're listening to 10 different YouTube videos today or podcasts or whatever. Very likely, I'm the only person talking about the Holocaust or Holocaust Remembrance Day. So, this morning, I'm thinking about what to do on my show, and money's super fucking tight right now. And you want to talk about like the Shazam trailer, and I want to talk about things that like that us nerds give a shit about, or like, about The Last of Us getting renewed, or fun things, or what I've been watching, or The Bachelor. But I feel on my shoulders that weight of like, if you don't talk about this, Roxy, a lot of the people who watch your show, you're the only shot that they have to hear that it even is Holocaust Remembrance Day. It's trending on Twitter, obviously, so some people saw it there, but it's you, it's me, I'm the one who brings it up, or else most of you don't have, a lot of you at least, don't follow another Jewish host or a host that's as active in the Jewish community in terms of like as vocal, or have Jewish people around you, and that's not your fault. There's so fucking few of us. But it's like I do feel like I just have to. You just have to talk about it, and like just looking at pictures and stories and reading people's stories and thinking about, there was this one few slides of all of these survivors that said like in Auschwitz at 4 years old, 7 years old, 11 years old, and they lived. And there's quotes, because a lot of times my friends will ask me, like I think Steph has asked me, like, How do people, and she's not asking me like I would know the answer, but it's just conversation that comes up. She's like, how do people who survived the Holocaust decide to have a family? Like, how do people do that? And I don't know that I would be able to do that. Like, even after the pandemic in the last few years, it's like people are wondering, like, how the fuck do you bring kids into this world, in this fucked up world? And it's like, imagine going through Auschwitz, somehow surviving, which so few fucking did, somehow surviving, and then managing to, like, we all have fucking baggage and trauma today. Like, I think about, like, okay, my ex of 6 years, like, made me so fucked up. And nobody does that solo, it's a combination. But like, I so fucked up that like I have a hard time dating. I'm like, have walls up to the sky. And I'm like fucked up over it. And like my history, my mom dying, my mom died, and I have baggage from thinking like, okay, so you could find the love of your life, but then they could die anyway. So what's the point? Like we all have things like that. That makes you question, should I even try? You lived through the Holocaust. You were in a camp. You watched everybody around you get murdered for being born. And somehow you managed to overcome that and have a fucking family? And a lot of these quotes are like, I really said fuck you to the things that happened to me because I lived a beautiful life afterwards and had a family and kids. And I think part of the reason for that is like, it is saying like, you couldn't kill our bloodline. Because you guys know, especially the people most mainly targeted in the Holocaust were Ashkenazi Jews, which is what I am. As you know, there are many kind of Jews. We've talked about this before, but Mizrahi and Sephardic and Ashkenazi. But Ashkenazi is the type of Jew I am, and like it's a specific type of Jew where on my 23andMe or whatever that is, it would identify me as an Ashkenazi Jew because it's in your blood, it's in your DNA. And so really what those survivors are saying is like, you tried to mass execute us and and stop us from existing. And the only way to combat that was to continue to exist. I just can't imagine the pressure that you must feel to continue your bloodline. I don't mean your bloodline as in like Stryer. Your bloodline as in like Jew. And even like, the language of the Ashkenazi people is Yiddish. It's a dying language because if, if people were animals, we were going extinct. So just it's fucking crazy. Anyway, it makes you think today, and when it is Remembrance Day, I feel like I have no choice but to remember and then to force all of you guys to fucking remember too. So thank you for letting me do that in the Streamlabs, streamlabs.com/Roxy Stryer. Speaks facts. Love that handle. Says the Holocaust happened. Nazis are evil. Anti-Semitism is bad. Just some facts that apparently almost half the country doesn't know. I know. And knowledge is power. And the best thing that we can do is continue to spread that so that we can overtake the people who are ignorant or hateful. And mostly those who are hateful. Ignorant, hopefully you can spread knowledge to. But hateful, it's difficult. And again, can anybody answer these questions for me? If you are a Holocaust denier, so you're a denier of history, you're a denier of fact, you're a denier of truth, you must think something else. What is that else? Like, okay, like flat earthers. They don't think the earth is round. Therefore, they think the earth is flat. Now, that is a lie and asinine, and science says otherwise. But at least I know what you think. You don't think the earth is round, you think the earth is flat. Okay, so for Holocaust deniers, you don't think the Holocaust happened. You think what? What? Like the same thing with anti vaxxers, right? You don't think you should get the vaccine because you think that the vaccine is harmful to you because you think it causes, and this is all not true, but this is what they think, autism, um, what is it called? Seizures, whatever. Like you think that vaccine might kill you. That's what you think. So that science disagrees, and you are wrong, and that is a lie. But that's what anti-vaxxers think. So you don't. So Holocaust deniers, you don't think the Holocaust happened. You think what? Like Mel Gibson's dad, and this is generational because then you teach your children. Mel Gibson's dad, you don't think the Holocaust happened. You think what happened. So if you think it's not real, you think it's a hoax, you think it's fake, then what do you think happened to those Jews? What do you think these concentration camps that still exist as historical sites, how do you think those were made? What do you think Hitler did do? What do you think happened in World War II? What do you think the Americans who participated in World War II were doing on the German front? What do you think happened? I just don't understand. If you don't think this, what do you anyway? I'm spending too much time trying to understand crazy. But I feel like I spend a lot of time these days trying to understand crazy. You think about it and you're just like, what are you fucking crazy? And then you're like, the answer to that is yes. Ash in the streamlabs.com/Roxy says, do militant Christians believe that Jesus was Christian? Like, do they think he worshipped himself? He lived and died a Jew, but somehow Jews are bad. Like they don't even know their own shit. I don't, Ash, it's such a good question. I know a lot of like Christian, not a lot, but I know some Christians. And like the diehard Christians still believe that Jesus was a Jew. So that part's confusing to me too. But a lot of them believe that the Jews then killed Jesus, which has been debunked. And also, like the Pope said that didn't happen. But I think maybe, Ash, the really Christian people think that Jesus was a Jew, but then he was murdered by his own people. And that's the difference. I don't fucking know. I mean, again, first of all, we're talking about something from thousands of years ago. Second of all, I don't know how to make sense out of nonsense. So if they do believe that he was a Jew, I think they believe that the Jews are bad because then they killed their own. Maybe is the thought process. Which they didn't, but maybe that's what the belief is. Maybe they don't think about it much. They just, like in the same way, like where Kanye says slavery is a choice. Sometimes it be your own people, like who just come up with the fucking shit that makes no sense. Where like, how do you even justify what you're saying? I don't like what. Anyway, so take a minute today to educate yourselves, to remember, very possibly to educate somebody else. It matters what we do, especially our generations, the generation above me, my generation, the generation below me. We need to, those are the people who were not alive during the Holocaust. It is our job. It is our obligation. It is our duty to make sure that this historical event is not forgotten. That is part of being a human and trying to keep the world and trying to make the world the best place it can be. is by not letting it repeat its mistakes. And the only way to not repeat mistakes, as we're watching right now, Jewish hate crimes are, I think it's 215% in this country, in America, increased. I mean, it's like insane what's happening to the Jews in this country right now, and not just this country. And there's no surprise that hate crimes towards Jews and the Holocaust not taking place and Holocaust denials being on the rise. There's obviously a direct correlation between those two things. So it's our job. So anyway, today on Holocaust Remembrance Day, let's do our best to remember, as fucking painful and hard as it is. I don't even think I have any Jews in the chat right now, but if you are, shout out to you today. We are a group of survivors. Nobody can say otherwise. And I'm thinking about all the people who lost their lives unbelievably unnecessarily, and gonna do everything I can to prevent that from happening again. So thank you guys for being here. Sorry it wasn't a fun show today, but I'm not sorry because I think it was a necessary show. I will be back this weekend, probably Sunday. In the meantime, as always, stay safe, stay sane. Put down the toilet seat and live. We don't want those buffoons. I would say don't trend with the Holocaust, as you shouldn't trend with the Holocaust in that direction, but you can trend with Holocaust Remembrance Day. Wherever you are in the rainbow, we love you. We stand with the women of Iran, some of the bravest women we've ever seen. Justice for all the people who've lost their lives due to excessive force. My body, my choice. Golden sparkles. Glenn, we're thinking about you every second of every day. So much love to you, my dear. And to all of you guys who actually give a shit about this. Y'all are the good ones. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Okay. I'll see you guys later this weekend. Have a good one. And I hope that if you want that R&R, you get it. If you are trying to get lit, I hope you do that too. Hope you get a little break from work at some point. And I will talk to you later this weekend. Later.